Well, you are on the right channel. I figured since it's not every day of the week that we get a cobbler machine into the workshop, and this is a Singer 29-4 by the way, that I would go ahead and change the setting and go off-site from the workshop to give this unique machine a little bit better or a little bit different of a backdrop than all the other machines that I have in the workshop. It's a lovely place, real close in Oconto to where I live, and this is actually a county park, and I've got the opportunity to set it up out here, which was no small task. I'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit, and you can see the backdrop that we have. And this again is Annie's machine. You can see she has the original base. The machine basically sets on top of the base, and there's a couple of pins that fit in those front two legs. And I'll see if I can zoom in on those a little bit. I've got the sun right in my eyes too, so I may struggle a little bit as far as managing the camera. But those two legs on the front will have pins in the bottom, and then they'll fit into the holes that are on the base of the machine. And this machine, again, just a reminder, is from 1920. In this production series, there were only 2,500 made. 2,500 machines made, which is a real small production size. And if you're curious to look it up, the serial number on Annie's 29-4 is G as in George 797-8533, G as in George 797-8533. And Annie and her husband, who are, again, commercial truck drivers, they go all over the country driving the big rigs. They brought this back in September. So just last month, September 5th, a little friend trying to get into this shot here. It had a number of challenges. It needed some parts replaced on it. It needed all kinds of adjustments on it. It's a machine that's, I wouldn't say it's highly complicated, but the parts that are integral to it need to be operating just right to get a good stitch. So a fair amount of work, I would say, went into this machine. I think I'm being conservative. And also the machine itself also was just ridiculously filthy. And I actually, even off-site, brought my little garbage can, which you probably won't be able to see the pads in it very clearly, but just a slew of pads to try to get this machine body cleaned up a little bit more and just make it more presentable. Again, a cobbler machine doesn't have to be like a shiny penny, but you want it to be decent looking. So we might as well kind of jump into things. And also I will afterwards come off the tripod and try to show you how this machine threads. It's a very unique way that it threads. That way, if you happen to have a cobbler machine as well and you don't have the benefit of an instruction manual. The instruction manual, by the way, I'm going to step forward a little bit. Whoops, sorry about that. Off-site, there's challenges. So the instruction manual is, I would say, about as thick as a small encyclopedia. I'll kind of just zoom in on it there. You can see this is the instruction manual. I didn't count the number of pages. I would say probably about 80 to 90 pages. And that also includes parts as well. So if you have, like I did, if you have needs of parts and you need to know what the part numbers are and all that, then you've got access through this book, which I sourced for Annie and her husband, so that you're able to be able to do those things for the machine to get it back so it's sewing properly. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I think I'll be able to zoom in on that just to kind of show you a shot. Well, it may be tough. I'll do my best. Zoom in on it. You can see all the oiling points on this machine as well in this cover piece. Oh, my pages are trying to move. That's not very helpful, is it? I'll put my clips on the edge. Hopefully that'll hold it. It's a little bit more challenging shooting a premiere off-site, to say the least. So again, I've got the sun right in my eyes. I'm not able to see real clearly, but you can see there, as far as this instruction manual, there's just a ton of oiling points on this this machine, and this 29-4 is needy when it comes to staying lubricated properly, and to being able to get a get a machine that's operating with all of these moving parts as it's being turned. And I'm going to be, for purposes out here, I'm going to be turning it by hand. Annie does have the treadle belt that will go over the balance wheel and connect to this base, so she'll be able to use it as it was intended, as a treadle machine. But for our purposes, I'm going to go ahead and just operate it by hand, and I think you'll get the idea. And we've got fish jumping out here too today. That's kind of cool. So I'm going to move this instruction manual out of the way. Again, this is a 1920 model, and we will see if we can do a little bit of stitching with this machine here off-site. And again, Annie and her husband are going to be using this for leather sewing. No surprise, right? As a cobbler machine. So we're going to be sewing leather off with it today as well. So let me zoom in near the end here, and I hope I can get the camera to focus with the water in the background. Otherwise I'm going to have to move. I'm probably going to have to move this camera so it has a different angle. Can't tell if that's focused or not. Is that focused? Yeah, let's go ahead and move the camera just to be safe. We will do it this way. Yeah, I think that water will kind of mess with it, you know what I mean? So I will come out on the shot just a little bit and lock it in place. You know, I could do this. I could zoom in on it afterwards and then just show you, because the way this operates with all the moving parts I think is pretty jazzy, pretty cool. Let's do it like this, and then I'll zoom in afterwards. And I should probably turn my screen around too. So Annie and her husband had provided some samples, but a lot of them had stitching on them already as they were trying to get this this machine to work. And you can kind of see that in some of these shots. Hopefully you can see it. I'm not, again, the sun is hitting the screen, so I'm not able to see it, but there are all kinds of balancing issues and tension issues and just not getting a good outcome with this machine. So I had to kind of start from scratch, and the result now is that it's running exactly as it should be. So we'll start kind of easy peasy with a single layer of this genuine cowhide, and this is nearly identical to the piece that Annie and her husband gave me. I'll set that there for now. And we'll get her underneath the presser foot, and we'll give this a crank. All right, you ready? Can't see. Yeah, again, I've got the sun in my eyes, so I can only see so much here. All right, here we go. Notice all the pivoting points on this machine as it operates. All right, we're going to stop right there. Again, this is just a single layer that we're doing right now, just a single layer. So I wouldn't say anything, nothing monumental. and you're not going to be able to see it from this distance, but I'll certainly zoom in. It's an absolutely spectacular stitch. And what I'm going to do now is, after I clip these threads off, bear with me for a second. And yes, I even brought my garbage can out here so that I wouldn't litter the environment. So this is the one we just did. I'm just going to set it right down here by the treadle belt. And now I'm going to cut another piece, and we're going to do 2 layers of this stuff. See how this cobbler machine does with 2 layers. And I did a horrible job of cutting that. I think I'm distracted by all the beauty out here. All right, let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so again, we're going to be doing 2 layers this time. Our first one was 1 layer. And let's see how this cobbler does. And I will tell you this, that this machine threads from left to right, so bringing the thread back to the right of the presser foot is going to cause you less problems as far as getting that thread bunched up or caught or something like that. I've got to bring this needle up a little bit. All right, presser foot down, and now we're doing 2 layers of this. Let's see how the machine does. Here we go. I can tell you this, it's absolutely effortless to turn this even by 1 finger, which is what I'm doing right now. And the presser foot pressure attachment is on the rear of the machine, and I probably need to, at least the recommendation I'll give to Annie and her husband is that they go ahead and increase that if they're going to be doing 2 layers, because otherwise that stitch is going to be shorter than it should be, because those feed dogs are struggling a little bit with moving that thicker material evenly underneath the feed dogs. Okay, and it's a spectacular stitch on these 2 layers as well. I'm hoping I can get a clear shot of these with that sun bleaching right in front of me. I should be able to. Okay. Let's see, the best angle I can get maybe is right down here on the bed. So that's our, I'll put it to the right, that's our 2 layers. This is our single layer. I'll put it kind of like that so we can look at them side by side. All right, bring my screen around so hopefully I can see what you're seeing. This is tough, folks. This sun is real bright right in my eyes. So the one you're looking at right here, the one hopefully you can see, is that single layer that I did. And I can try to do this off the tripod as well at the end. But it's an absolutely spot-on stitch. It's perfect in every way. The spacing, the formation is exactly as it should be. So the cobbler machine did a fantastic job. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit and I'll flip this over so you can see the lock stitch. And again, because of the nap of this leather, it's going to be a little bit tough to see this lock stitch, but I will go past it anyway so you can hopefully catch a glimpse of some of the stitches. But it drives it. I mean, this is a machine that was designed for repairing boots and all kinds of heavy leather goods, so I mean, it doesn't mess around when it comes to driving that stitch home, to say the least. And then I'm going to move a little bit to the right and hopefully try to get a glimpse of the stitches that are a part of these 2 layers. And I think you'd agree that those are also spectacular stitches in every respect. Beautiful stitches. And I'll go ahead and see if I can turn this over as well and give you a glimpse of the lock stitch. Oh, this one, the way I folded it, you're able to see that lock stitch a little bit better because it's not on the nap. It's actually on the rear of the material, so you're seeing the same sewing surface top and bottom. Absolutely as it should be. Again, this cobbler was not, Annie and her husband could attest, was not delivering a stitch like this when it came to the workshop just last month. It needed a lot of help, a lot of parts, a lot of adjustments, a lot of fine-tuning. Once it's running right, it is a rugged machine. It'll get the job done consistently, but you got to get it to that point, and that's what my task was. So I'm really pleased with how this machine is sewing now, and that's an example of a treadle belt. That's just one I happened to have on hand. That's the same type of treadle belt that Annie already has, that she's going to be using with this machine once she sets it up in full. And the other thing I'll show you real quick, I think it was kind of interesting. If I can get a shot of it. Well, there's my garbage can with all those yucky pads in it too, if you're curious to see all the junk that had to be taken off of the paint. And that's only a small sampling of what had to be taken off. But the bobbin with this machine is also, and again, if I seem like I'm really wonky off here, it's because I got the sun right in my eyes, folks. So I just wanted to show you comparatively. The larger of the two bobbins that you're seeing right now is from a rotary machine. Just a standard rotary machine like you would see domestic or white. And the one in the foreground is the bobbin that goes with this cobbler. It's substantially smaller. I would say it's probably about a third to a quarter of the size of the, a standard size bobbin that you might see in a rotary type machine. So, you don't have as much thread to work with. You're going to have to be changing out thread. You're going to have multiple bobbins if you're going to be doing some larger projects. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get the job done. I mean, you'll constantly be going back to winding, the bobbin over and over and over again. And when Annie brought me the machine, see if I still have it. I think I still have it. It takes a special bobbin winding tire. And needless to say, this bobbin winding tire was no longer serviceable. It probably was the original one from the 1920s. And so I had to go through a little bit of effort to find her an appropriate working bobbin winder so she would be able to rewind bobbins on this machine. And I think I can get a shot of it. Where is it? Ah, there it is. There's a shot of that bobbin tire. It's probably about 40 to 45% larger than a standard bobbin winding tire. And the way, I'll see if I can really zoom in on it, the way you actuate it is you have to loosen that screw that you can kind of see. You have to loosen this screw right here, and then what you can do is you can rotate this down, just like I did, rotate it so it's pointing down, and then it's making contact with that balance wheel, so you can put a bobbin on the end of here, and then you can wind it. And then when you don't want to use it, you just go ahead and rotate it so it's vertical again. And I would recommend kind of screwing that screw down, that way it doesn't inadvertently, as you're working the machine, it doesn't inadvertently rotate back up and have contact with that balance wheel. But it's a little bit awkward, I would say, winding a bobbin on this machine. There's not a traditional track that you can follow in winding it. It's a little bit more awkward, but it's certainly doable. I mean, I was able to do it, so I don't think Annie and her husband will have any difficulty at all. And you can see this base that they got with this machine is an original Singer base. It's all wrought iron, obviously. Beautiful shape. Needed some attention as far as lubricating points, but otherwise, they got a heck of a unit here, with everything being in working condition. Apart from the machine needing obviously quite a bit of attention, but everything else was in decent shape. So that's a good thing. And I should zoom out real quick before I forget and just kind of show you I'm on the end of a pier, basically, by a bench, and then looking out towards this is basically the Bay of Green Bay. Spectacular setting, obviously, for this Cobbler machine. And this is a campground as well. A lot of campers out here enjoying the last of the camping season before we head into winter in Wisconsin. But this is the same bay that I've shown you shots of before through different Facebook posts. And obviously you can see there's a boat landing over there as well. I was going to go to another location, but it is a beautiful day out here today, and there were a lot of kiddos out there. There's still some kiddos out here. You may be able to hear them periodically in the background, but the other location that I originally was going to go to was, let's say it was a little bit on the loud side. So, all right, so this time I'm going to do one more sew off, and I'm going to zoom in on the needle so you can see this walking foot do its magic as it's moving that material over the feed dogs. I think it's kind of cool. And if you happen to have a machine in the workshop right now, don't contact me and ask me to do a remote shot like this for your machine too. It's a lot of extra work, and I don't mind doing extra work, but needless to say, it definitely is going to raise the stakes as far as the amount of time that I'm able to devote to actual sew-offs and such, just because of all the setup time and the travel and everything else. All right, blah, 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 blah. So this time we're going to do 2 layers again. I'm going to go ahead and slide this underneath, and you'll be able to see this walking foot do its job extremely well. All right, so here we go. Notice how it's moving back and forth, pulling that material over the feed dogs. It's not just pushing down, it's pulling back. So it's really increasing the feed factor. Also, with the shuttle system on this, you'll notice I'm just kind of moving it a little bit right now, but that shuttle is very, very active when you're engaged in sewing. I mean, it's pivoting and shifting and doing all kinds of stuff. Well, and I'm glad that was my last sew off, because I caught the edge of the teeth on that presser foot, and I actually just cut my thread that comes down to the needle, which may be an interesting opportunity to show you how you have to thread this machine. Let's just say it's a very unique process. Let me walk back and change my shot a little bit, and I'll show you the one that we just sewed off. Where are we? Let's do it right up there. Okay, this is the one that we literally just sewed off. That's our top stitch. I'll zoom in on that, and then I'll flip it over and show you the lock stitch. And that sun is not giving me any break here. It's bleaching right into my eyes. Okay, so there's our top stitch. Absolutely spot on in every way. Spacing, formation, everything about that stitch is exactly as it should be. Yeah, okay, I'll say it. I'm out in nature. Let's just say it's brag-worthy, okay? All right, let me give this a flip over, and we'll check out that lock stitch as well. Again, when I do the walk around the machine, I'll show you where the presser foot adjuster is for increasing presser foot pressure. I probably have it a little bit on the light side right now. It's laying down a real good stitch. This again, what we're looking at right now is our lock stitch, but I'm seeing a little bit of a feed factor because of the thickness of the leather. Again, we're talking 2 layers. We're probably talking about 12 ounces of genuine cowhide. And it's, my eye just sees that, you know, it's probably not feeding as perfectly as it could. But again, that's a very, 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 very good lock stitch. I'm very pleased with that. Okay, so now, because I was pulling that thread in a way that, and I'm going to adjust this camera again. Again, when you're dealing with light that you can't control out here, it makes it a wee bit more challenging. Okay, so let me see if I can zoom in like this. We'll look at the front of the machine. So first of all, you can see the thread comes over here. There's a little pressure plate right there that has a little flapper basically that comes down, and it kind of holds that thread and allows it to feed evenly. It just pivots up and down, that's all it is. And then we come across here and we're near the upper tension controller, which is that right there, and there's a little peg behind there. This doggone camera, it's just not staying still. There's a little peg right here that you can kind of see where the thread is going to go around the inside of that peg, and then it's going to go to the outside of the pressure discs, and it's going to come around to a thread guide that's right on the front. Adjust this a little bit. Yeah, I've got it in the shot. It's going to come through that little thread guide you can see right here, and then it's going to feed through the take-up arm from the front to the back. But here's where it gets more tricky. You actually need a special tool, which I have to find now. Here's my special tool. Don't tell me I dropped it, that would be bad. I know it's got to be here, folks. I know it's got to be here somewhere. Oh my Lord. I hope I didn't lose it. That would be a bummer. Oh, the joys of doing live premieres, huh? Bear with me for a second here, folks. Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law. I'm still looking for it, folks. Oh, jeez. Well, needless to say, I will find it. I'm not finding it right now. It obviously dropped on the ground somewhere. So, at any rate, you get to that point, and you go through this thread guide here, you go up to the take-up arm, and then you're going to come back down to a section right here, where you have to work that thread down through the needle shaft. It actually goes on the inside. You have to push it all the way down, and it goes down through the needle shaft, and then you pull it out the bottom and you thread the needle once you get it pulled all the way down. So again, once you go through the take-up arm, where is it? There we go, right there you can see it plain. So right there is that little opening that runs straight down the needle shaft, and that's where you're going to be feeding that thread so it comes all the way down to the needle. Of course, I'm not going to do that right now because the little rod that you use to do it with, I dropped it, and I'm not getting my eyes on it right now. So we will find it, but that's how you would correct a threading issue with this cobbler machine once the thread breaks. Because thread inevitably will break, either because you did like I did, where you brought it across the edge of the feed dogs that have kind of a jaggedness to them, the inside part of that, so it digs into the material and moves it, and it just happens. It happens. So I'm going to change the camera angle again. Hopefully I've got it reasonably level. So this again is Annie's cobbler machine. It's a fantastic machine. It's very, very happy right now as far as its ability to sew. And it is ready to get the job done. And I'm sure that it's not minding this setting very much at all. Be kind of cool if this were the backdrop to my videos all the time. I don't even need music then to kind of fill that gap. I just need water, and I need there's a duck out there somewhere. Let's see it. Where's that duck? Well, he's out there somewhere. I thought I saw him go by. Yeah, there's a bird going after some fish or something. All right, folks, I'm getting distracted. I'm like a 9-year-old. So this is again Annie's 1920 cobbler machine. Fabulous machine for getting any kind of leather goods sewing done. I found my little device. Okay, I'm going back. I was going to wrap this up. No, I'm not. All right, now I have to move the dog on camera again. Well, I'm glad I found it anyway. Otherwise, I'd have to get another one for Annie and her husband. So, okay. So I was trying to show you that once you thread it through the take-up arm, actually up there, come out a little bit. Just making sure I've got the right shot. Is this where my shot is? Yeah. Okay, good. So the thread broke, so what we're doing now, I'm just going to go ahead and pull this thread back out. We have it through the take-up arm right now. And you need to get a little bit of an extension on the thread so that you can have enough to feed it down the needle shaft. I'm trying to see in the camera. I think I'm below a little bit where I want to be. Is that the right angle? Yeah. So this is let me come on this shot a little bit, because otherwise you're only going to see part of this and you're not going to know exactly the type of little apparatus that this is. So this is the apparatus that I had dropped. It's got a little ring on top, and then down on the bottom it's got almost like a little groove that allows you to grip that thread and to push it down that needle shaft so you can then thread the needle. Hopefully you can see that to some extent. So this is again the entirety of it. It's basically just a long piece of wire. It's a long piece of wire. All right, so let me zoom back in. So there's our take-up arm, and then there's the place right there where we're going to have to work this thread in once I get this silly camera to stop moving. I don't know why this camera all of a sudden is migrating. It's like moving all over the place. Okay, I think that'll work. I hope it works. So we put the thread back through the take-up arm, and then there's a little opening right here. Right here where this little tool can actually fit in. Let me actually turn the camera around and see if you're seeing what I'm seeing. Yeah, so there's our little ring, and then as we come down, there's the opening right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to grip that thread and then just slide it down the needle shaft. That's our goal. That's our goal. Well, the wind is really picking up now. All right, so I'm going to take this out. I'm going to then put those little prongs adjacent to the thread and start to slide it down that needle shaft. You see that thread actually feeding. I think you can see that thread feeding as I'm pushing it down the needle shaft. And when you're doing this, you might have to rotate this a little bit to get it to go all the way through. It may not just go through on its own accord. Okay, I think I got it. I hope I got it. Okay, so let's go down to the needle now. So it has to go all the way down, all the way through where the faceplate area would be. It has to go all the way down and finally down to where you can see it there, sort of, kinda. You can see the needle in the front, and then you can see that little prong device in the rear. And I'm hoping that I did it right so that the thread followed that all the way down. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like I did. So there's the thread right there. Just have to pull it the rest of the way through. And then I have to pull this little device out of the way. This little threading device. And now the next step is to, I would recommend go ahead and just lowering the feed dog, and then you can go ahead and thread that needle so that it's ready to resume sewing again. And I've got a little bit of rough end, so I got to give that a quick clip. Okay, and again, you're going to be threading from left to right. There we go. And raise your presser foot again, and then bring that thread to the rear. And now you're ready to resume sewing again. I'll just put a piece of material underneath there so that that's back in place again. Press your foot down. And that was probably one of the most awkward attempts to show you how to do something on this channel. But she's all set to go again. And again, all we did was basically take that thread from the shaft all the way down using that special tool, and then we rethreaded the machine again. So now that I've accomplished that, now I can finally wrap this Premiere up. And I'll tell you one thing, this has been a real fun project. I don't have the opportunity to work on a lot of cobbler style machines because a lot of folks aren't going to need that style of machine for the work that they're doing. That bird is having so much fun. think he's just trying to show off for us a little bit. All right. All right, so this is going to wrap up the premiere, thank goodness, at last. And I know Annie, her husband, are excited. They are back now. I thought they were going to be coming back closer to Thanksgiving, but they're back now. So they're going to be coming by the workshop to pick up the base and the machine head as well, now that it is all done and all happy. And zoom out a little bit, step into the shot. This is such a beautiful backdrop, isn't it? Just loving this backdrop. Okay, so this again is Annie and her husband's 1920 Cobbler machine. Oh, and you'll notice something different. Since I've been on camera last, I decided to grow out a mustache a little bit. I don't know if you can really see it in the shot very clearly, but I certainly welcome your feedback. Some people like mustaches, some people don't. So you can let me know your thoughts on this new look for me as I'm kind of stepping into the camera. And really a pleasure to have you at this premiere. Hope you found it informative. I hope you found it interesting to see this machine operate. Really a fabulous machine, this 29-4. Did I get that right? Where's my little cheat sheet? Ah! I think it's a 29-4. Yes. Ugh, so many distractions out here. So many distractions. So, all right, folks, well, stay tuned for other great videos like this where you'll see machines you haven't seen before. You'll learn new things. You'll see me bumble things at times, and you'll have an opportunity to occasionally leave the workshop with me and be in a setting that really gives an amazing backdrop to a spectacular 1920 Cobbler machine. All right, God bless, and stay tuned for other great videos like this. And I need to fulfill a promise. Told you I'd come off the tripod, which I will. And this does obviously take a specialized needle as well. This is that little opening right here. Where's my finger? Right there is that little opening where you have to feed the thread down through it using that special tool, and then it goes all the way down to it goes all the way down to needle shaft, and it gives you the ability then to thread the machine. But if you don't do that, you're not going to have any success. The other thing I'll show you is some of the cleanup that I did. All of these areas right here were all varnished and all gunked up and junky looking, and I was able to get them nice and clean, get a nice clean surface here as well. And this is our presser foot bar adjustment right here. By turning this down, you're going to increase presser foot pressure, which I would recommend as you start to increase the layers of leather. And as you turn it counterclockwise, you're going to decrease presser foot pressure. It basically pushes down on this band, and then that band goes over to here where it's adjacent to the presser foot, and it's going to put down pressure on that. But the machine is obviously a lot cleaner than it was, and that really wasn't an ultimate goal, I would say, but it definitely, I think, brings a little bit more of that beauty back to the machine as well. And yeah, even a Cobbler machine can have beauty. It can have that that look of wow as you're using it and as others are watching you use it. As we come across the front of the machine, you can see our serial number plate here. You may be able to see it, maybe not in this sunlight. And our model branding mark here, where it's going to tell you it's a 29-4, our Singer medallion. This is just an access portal for servicing the machine. And here again, you'll be able to get a closer look at threading it as well, which I think would probably be helpful to folks. So your spool thread goes right here, and then you're coming across to this little, almost called like a little cup. It's a little cup where it has this little band that you can rotate up or down. See that? Kind of rotates up and down. Just make sure your thread is underneath the center point as you bring it back down. There we go. I can't see a thing, folks. With the sun in my eyes, I hope I'm actually in the right area. And then this over here is that little pin I was talking about, where you have to go behind that pin with the thread, then you have to kind of come around the pin and come back through the presser foot, excuse me, the take-up discs here, the upper tension discs. You come around, and then you come off of there to this thread guide here. And that's where you come up to the take-up arm. And you thread it again from front to back, and then you have to feed that thread through that little opening right there using that special tool, so it comes all the way down the needle shaft and it exits right there, and then you're down by the needle and you're able to grab that thread like I did and then thread this needle from left to right. All right, there you got her. So, fabulous machine. I'll go ahead and end this premiere at last now that we came off the tripod. And what a great setting, huh? All right, folks, stay tuned for other great videos like this. God bless you. Annie, come pick up your machine. It's all set. And no, you don't get the background. That's staying here. All right. Talk soon, folks. Take care. Bye.